internationalization. That's at least the topic of today. I'm going to make this, I think, as interactive as I can. So ideally, you have questions and I can help you. But I'm also going to talk a little bit about my own experience to frame it a little bit. So I've been an entrepreneur for now nearly over a decade. I've had 3 startups. I would say one of them was what you call successful on one of the metrics at least, and then 2 other startups that maybe were successful failures, but at least we tried. And I've worked with all of these startups in a relatively international setting. I think I have very little background of who's in the room, what you guys are doing. So what I know is that a lot of you guys work with the African context. That's at least what I saw in some of the documentation. So I think that's what I can assume here. And my first startup was focused on investing in solar energy in emerging markets. So a lot in Kenya, East Africa, West Africa, based in Sweden. So we were a Swedish team with a team in Kenya. Now there's a team in India, I think it's obviously not part anymore. And also in Nigeria. So I definitely have the Africa context. As for those people, that's relevant. I'm not sure how many of you those are. And internationalization can go very wrong in many ways. And it obviously depends a lot on your type of business. And we had internationalization in 2 ways. I mean, one was the product that we were building is a crowdfunding platform. So basically, we were building a fintech platform that was raising money from Europeans to then invest in energy companies in, let's say, in Kenya, for example. So we had internationalization on both ends. And I think the mistake that we made was that we thought it's going to be relatively easy because it's a digital startup, so can't be that complicated, right? And I think on the most digital side, we actually never truly internationalized because all of our investors, I think 90% came from Sweden, and then there was 10% from all over the EU. Versus on the more complicated side, we actually quite quickly internationalized in terms of Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Senegal, Nigeria. Probably one of the other countries that I'm missing. But I think what is really important, and I think quite obvious, is to understand the cultural context when you internationalize. So we hired really quickly people on the ground in Nairobi. For the East Africa context, we made a lot of mistakes there. I think one of the bigger mistakes that we made is actually hiring, I would say, entrepreneurial people. So actually, we did not hire entrepreneurial people. We hired a lot of more manager people, and that didn't go very well because you need people. First of all, you need people on the ground and internationalize. Doing it purely digitally is most often really difficult. One, you need to, if it's B2B, you need to do face-to-face interactions. Otherwise, it's just going to go very difficult, very hard. And you can do part of that digitally, but at some point you need a person on the ground that can be more present. And the other element is you need somebody that obviously is from the place that you want to do business in. Otherwise, you're going to run into a lot of cultural issues. We, with a bunch of guys from Sweden, we obviously didn't get the Kenyan context sometimes. So we were really happy when we had a Kenyan team with locals that actually understood a bit more the context, I would say, in most of East Africa. And we were pretty okay, but that was definitely important. And the same in Nigeria and in India. And originally our idea was we just want to assess the companies digitally. We travel there once a quarter, and that's gonna fly. So one is the people thing. You need a really good local representative. And with most businesses, it is way better to just pick a country first and not to pick everything. Because if you try to do every country, you're not going to be a perfect fit for anybody. For example, in our case, the actual fundraising side of our business, we initially had it in Swedish and not in English, because it was a financial product which needs a lot of trust, and you want to do that in the local language. So a lot of international, like, there's no blank statement, there's no like master plan, but for some things, like if your product needs a lot of trust, you will want to do this in a local language, with features that are more local than general, and then really go deep in the market before you internationalize. That was at least our strategy. And even today, after 10 years, I think 80% is still Sweden, because there was just enough to scale in one country instead of just trying to do everything at the same time. And even on the solar side, we started in Kenya because that was the best market in sub-Saharan Africa for us when it comes to the solar energy market, when it comes to the investment readiness, because we're investing in those companies. So I think a lot of the internationalization also comes down to research, like pick the country that is most suitable for your product, and again, focus on that first. I'm working with a data company now that is based in the Netherlands and works again in sub-Saharan Africa. And we actually just last year decided that instead of doing every country in sub-Saharan Africa and just try to get clients everywhere, we're going to focus in South Africa. And why is that? Well, because South Africa is, I think, 90% of the commercial industrial solar market in sub-Saharan Africa. So again, like doing some research, it kind of made it super obvious that it doesn't make sense to try to treat or try to go to every country, but actually go to South Africa, focus on the market, build features that are really only relevant there, like things like wheeling, because they have a wheeling system in South Africa. They have a different tariff system in a lot of countries. And in that way, we focused more on scale than internationalization. But that is a very specific product issue. I still believe that for most startups, internationalization only makes sense one country at a time, starting with the countries that are closest to your pain points and where you have the biggest market potential. So that's people, research, and then also how you enter market can be many ways. We usually had local country managers that have local experience, that have a network in the industry that we're in, to get us off the ground going. And instead of us trying to get to know everybody, we already have a starting point. And those people are super key for your company. So those people should be treated quite highly. So that means getting a good amount of equity. Okay. Some background music. So you want to give them a certain amount of equity and or a good salary. Otherwise, you're not gonna really succeed in entering the market, because the people don't have the incentives to scale. But before I continue, like, what are, if anybody of you want to share, like, what are your businesses that you want to scale? And have you guys thought about markets? How have you guys thought about going in terms of scaling? If anybody wants to.
Do we have any volunteer? Someone who is thinking in a foreign market? How to internationalize their businesses? I think they are tired because
Can I come in?
they've been here almost 2 hours. Okay, Edmund, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so you were talking about businesses scaling. In my case, I haven't necessarily scaled because I just started my idea and I've been testing the market. However, I was able to chance on customers that are not necessarily within my local market. because I got a business in the Netherlands, even though I'm in Ghana. I got a business in the Netherlands who wanted me to provide my service. My business is focused on providing content marketing services for small and medium enterprises. So that is how I was able to get into the market. So I don't know how, I'm not necessarily scaling to those companies, but I'm getting customers from there. So I don't know what strategy that apply to me specifically.
And you mean with content marketing as the product, so to say? Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, like one thing with content marketing, obviously the language. I mean, I know a lot of countries in Africa speak English, so that's not that much of an issue. But in terms of scaling, where do you get most of your customers? Are those like word of mouth or?
Mostly through word of mouth. For now, I've not actively engaged in any digital marketing experience. So it's the customer that I've dealt with and I've built a relationship with. They normally lead me to other customers for now.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what I would have expected from kind of your business focus. So that obviously scales very poorly internationally because the people that you work with, they're just gonna know a lot of people in the same country, right? And why would you think that internationalization is interesting? Like, do you not get enough customers in the market that you're in, or?
Not necessarily. So I didn't necessarily decide to go into the international market, but it happened to me, so to speak.
Okay.
My business was focused on giving the service to people within my locale, but I needed money. So if I get a customer from Europe and the person is willing to pay, I cannot just say go away with the money because you're not putting. So that is the reason why I said I'm not in the scaling part, but I still am getting customers that are not in my geographic area or my local area.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other way of thinking about it. And that's what we originally did in my first company, which was more like we go where the customers come from. So more like this, I guess you call it organic growth. Again, it depends a lot on the product. With content marketing, you have a lot of competition everywhere usually. So I would probably think about if it's a specific focus or sector that you do content marketing for, then I would look at where is that sector where I can add value in which countries. If you just do content marketing across a lot of sectors, then obviously it's a lot more difficult. But I would say the most obvious one is just to continue looking into the European markets that you already have contacts in, because that's going to be much easier. And in the markets where your language is probably easier. So if you go with the Netherlands, English is probably not an issue. But if you would look at Spain or Germany or Austria, those are much more difficult to do in English. I mean, most of the business there is going to be in the local language, and then you're not going to get anywhere. So I guess in that case, it would be the Netherlands, Sweden, the UK, maybe, and some Scandinavian countries because they all speak English quite well. So most of Europe will probably not, I mean, that's the country-specific angle. And then I guess another angle would be industry. So if you focus on startups and do content marketing for startups, then English is a lot easier again, because that's kind of quite spread out. So I would think a little bit about what you want to focus on and what that means, because without that initial reflection, it's going to be very hard to be smart about this. And then you might get lucky with what happens right now. But it's not going to be easy. Another way of thinking about is how can I scale in the market that just opened for me, like the Netherlands. What we're doing in South Africa, for example, is referral fees. So our customers get benefits for when they get us another customer. So that helps you do the organic growth, but actually incentivize your existing customer base by giving them, in our case, for example, we have a product that has an annual fee, and we basically give our existing customer 10% of any new customer they sign up of the annual fee for 1 year. So obviously then if they get us big clients, they might even get our services for free at the end of the day. But we would get clients, we would never get others. So I guess in your case, I would more think about methods than countries and focus on what you already have. In the Netherlands is a great market anyway, to get into deeper. And English is really good there as well. So I think I would focus on that. Like you said, the Netherlands has probably better margins for you as a business. And then just really focus on having happy customers, giving them a benefit to share your word with other clients. And at some point do case studies, or like what we do is we do now case studies with South African customers, highlighting what we've done in the market and spreading that as well. If there's a way that you could show that you're more relevant to the Netherlands, that could also be interesting, what the other would look like. In our case, we show the features that are very special for South Africa. So it's much easier, obviously, in our case. I mean, it's a product more than a service, because you're more like a service, I think. And if you have a handful of clients, the last thing I would probably do at some point is to travel. I don't know if you're based in the Netherlands, I guess not. I would travel there. I know it's very difficult if you're based in an African country. But maybe there's a way to be on the ground as well, because we believe that we're living in a digital world, which is true. I work remote. But when I go to South Africa, I get much more business done in a week than I normally get done in a month. So, because I just can meet like 20 clients in a week face to face, and it's a very different thing than having an email back and forth for a month and then hopefully getting one meeting for half an hour, where everybody just wants to go for the agenda. So you miss the personal element, you don't get to know the people, you just talk about business. So that will be probably at a later stage. I don't know, Edmond, if that helps at all, but hopefully this is some of this.
Thank you.
Anybody else that has some scaling questions, issues? Which markets are you guys in right now? I know it's late, but anybody has some? So some of you haven't even started. Okay, that's for those that haven't even started. I wouldn't even think about internationalization, to be really honest, because it's all.
Yes. Hi, my name is Marcos. I have a business cards company. We have been working for a year. We have already some clients. We are growing a bit more in Malta, but to be honest, the market is becoming a bit difficult here due to new competitors. It's a small island, appeared some additional competitors, some of them with a big corporate behind. So in Spain still, it's not that much implemented the NFC. It's difficult because the market doesn't know the NFC business cards yet that much. But we wanted to move to Spain as a first step, because obviously I speak Spanish, so it was easy to go to the market, but then continue to Europe and so on. I know it's going to be a challenge, and one of the strategies is of the business that we have, because we already have a partners portal, is to engage with local printers. So instead of being us who directly sell to everyone in the country, is allowing them to sell locally to all their clients our business cards and having them with their percentage. You think it's something that can be extended to Europe, or there's some other countries that for sure they're not going to be working like with those kind of partnerships, and we need to try something different, or we should keep and focus with the e-commerce and try to do online marketing until we have more presence? Or
I mean, the idea with local partners is already really good. Like basically what you're going for is more of a partnership where you add value to somebody locally that sells your business. And those obviously will be very different from country to country, because like I know in Spain there's a lot of print shops everywhere, but in other countries people have their own printers and you don't really have a lot of print shops. So So that's the thing with internationalization. You usually cannot copy paste it that straightforward. But I would think about, yeah, what other kind of businesses. So what they do is they print the business cards, and that's why they are an ideal partner for you, right?
Oh, so this is what we have. Although they're bamboo or metal business cards mainly because they are sustainable and they have an NFC chip inside or a QR code. So when you scan it, you have a digital business card behind, and we have the digital business card platform, so on. So what they can do is either sell our business cards, so we ship them already customized, or they can customize it themselves, or they just sell them even they paper business cards, but put in a QR code from our platform. So we all engagement and we share the profit with them from the membership.
Yeah, I mean, I guess some things that pop into my head is conferences, like to have them as a partner somehow, because there you actually gonna use your product.
Conferences, you said?
Conference.
Yeah. Indeed, that's
Like,
one of the goals, because at the end, nobody needs a car until they go to an event. And then
yeah,
they remove
exactly.
business cards, and then they go they come to us to request business cards and so on. So that's one of the possibilities. But sometimes what we realize is with events, they're a bit they don't want to share the list of clients with someone external, because if they share that the number of people that they have for the event, and already because they are selling the emails, and the emails are going to come to our platform, they are a bit scared of having that partnership.
Yeah, I would even think about like another angle is to be a partner for them. I mean, could be like a very cheap sponsorship, just to have your brand. I mean, one is having a brand out there in a relevant place where your brand makes sense, and you popping up on a conference, you at least your customers are in the right mindset. They might, like when I went to a conference, I needed to buy business cards because I didn't have. So then I'm like, oh, interesting. Maybe I'll have a look. But then obviously you need to spend money on something that you don't know yet if it's gonna convert or not. But you can try it with some cheap ones where the partnerships are maybe not that expensive, and just trial. I think like anything in the startup world is just try and test, and that would be probably one, like an A/B test with conferences, startups in general. I think for your product, I would not go to the big corporates because they're probably not going to be that interested. But it would be co-working spaces as well. There's a lot of co-working in places like Barcelona. So it's, I guess, like a similar angle to the print shop, trying to find places where a lot of your potential end clients are. So you don't have to target the end client, but you target the intermediary. So a conference, there's like 1,000 people, great. So then you just need to interact with one entity. Co-working, there's, I mean, thousands of people sometimes as well. So even just, I don't know, whatever, like could be the same, a partnership or being in a newsletter and paying them. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of ways to do that potentially, or even targeting the companies in co-workings. I don't know. That's probably going to be making a lot more sense. And I would probably not go out of Spain anytime soon. I do speak Spanish. I actually, even before going to another European country, I would go to Latin America, like Mexico.
Shipment to Mexico is going to be complicated. Yes, for the
Okay. You have a physical product. Yeah, okay, that's a good point. Yeah, I'm thinking about digital products.
The digital part, yes, absolutely. I mean, it's the app is translated to Spanish. It's ready to be commercialized there. So I guess in Mexico, it's one of the possibilities. No, payments go through Stripe, so there's no problem with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm part of a mental health platform. I mean, that's again purely digital, but we started in Spain and we already have customers in Colombia and Peru now, and we haven't even done a lot of actually reach out there, but it's just the language. Again, it makes it a little easier, and the product is already in the language. I mean, I don't know about you because it says take my links, maybe you're already in English, the actual product.
We started in Malta, but then we translated the whole app to Spanish.
Okay. Yeah, so you should probably take advantage of that and just monetize your Spanish before you translate it to German, because it's going to be tricky going to Germany, Switzerland, Austria, Italy, France. You're going to have to be in the local language for all of those things to be really relevant. So yeah.
But now it's not on our plans to go tomorrow, no?
Yeah.
But it's true that that's why we translated everything to Spanish, no? And at the moment, there are no other apps fully translated to Spanish that are offering the same services. So it's the advantage we want to take. But it's we don't want to arrive to Spain as well and go with lower pace, and then another competitor sees what we are doing and go higher, no? With a lot of investment. What happened to us in Malta? We were the first one here, and suddenly there's people looking at that and saying, "No, we can invest money and get the market." No, it's
yeah. I would also say like maybe one other thing, because you're physical and you're gonna have partnerships, is also the focus on the big hubs in Madrid, Barcelona, Bilbao, and not try to be in the middle of nowhere with your, if you do whatever targeting, because that's where you're gonna sell. But yeah, I mean, and Spain is gonna be a bigger market than Malta, so hopefully we don't have that issue.
yeah, absolutely. just in Madrid is going to be 10 times bigger. So
Yeah. Cool. I hope that was a bit useful, Marcus. I think there's a few hands up. Nice. Banasco or John? Banasco, everyone.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Banasco. I'm from Ghana. So I work in the tech space. We run a social enterprise where we train young Ghanaians to become software engineers. And our business model is to assign them to work for foreign companies. And at the moment, we work for various Spanish companies. So our trained software engineers work remotely for foreign companies, specifically Spanish companies. So we have a number of Spanish companies that we work for, including Banco Santander. So,
Okay.
so we work for Spain mainly. At the moment, we have not worked for any other company in another country. So we'll be excited to explore other European markets. But at the moment, we work actively in Spain.
And why did you go for Spain?
Well, maybe my brother lives there and I also studied there.
Okay.
So we have a base in Spain. We have a relationship with Spain. So that's how we're able to start with the Spanish market.
Mm. Oh, well, that's great. And with software, you have a lot of doors. I mean, in my current company, we have, I think, 4 software developers in Nigeria as well. So makes a lot of sense. I will probably look into more markets, because I think the salaries you could charge in a Dutch company or German company probably slightly higher than with Spanish startups or companies in general. I mean, sometimes there's a good customers, and probably that's not that much of an issue there.
Well, that's one of our entry strategies, actually, the fact that our rates are very competitive. So our rates are considerable. So our rates are considerably low as compared to hiring, of course, engineers from Spain. So, and I'm sure we perhaps will be able to get a better pay in other countries. So we are looking forward to expanding. And of course, so like I said, because we're a social enterprise, we keep training. So we have a lot of people that we keep training. And also because the model, it's interesting and they are well aware that there's a possibility of working for a foreign company. We have a lot of people coming in to be trained. So we're constantly looking for clients and opportunities to expand and grow.
Yeah, I mean, again, like in your case, I would really look at Dutch or Scandinavian companies, because they all speak English. Like we speak English in our company, and it's a Dutch company. So obviously it's an African focused company, so it's easier, but that would probably be the markets I would look at first, because again, the rest is going to be not impossible, but a lot more friction And I'm assuming, I think in Ghana you speak English or French?
English, yes, we speak
English, yeah.
English.
So then it's a low-hanging fruit instead of, it's going to be much harder to get a German customer. So Sweden, the Netherlands is probably where I would look. And in your case, it's quite easy, right? You just need to look for job offers on LinkedIn, stuff like that, and focus on those markets. Because I guess you apply for the jobs, it's not the people that you train. Or you apply for them.
So it's a company so kind of like a B2B. So we engage the company as it's not as an individual. And also and we have an office in Spain actually. So the Spanish company, the Spanish office does the customer support, and so the day-to-day engagement is done by the Spanish office. So it's more of an institutional engagement than a one-to-one engagement.
Okay. And you feel like Spain, you're not getting enough scale, or is it more diversification?
Well, I think at the moment we have, but then like I said, there's a lot of need. We are getting in a lot of people now so it's kind of like keeping a balance, right? So you're training people that are getting to the level to enter market. That can start at entry level. So you're looking at training some more, and also looking at getting some more rules for them, so that those you train are able to find rules to work in. So it's kind of like a balance. At the moment, we are doing well. We have a good number of clients, but the need continuously increases. So yes.
Yeah, I guess one other thing. Obviously, one would be to look at English-speaking or other Spanish-speaking countries, actually, for that matter. But if you want to stay in the same time zone, that's going to be tricky. And the other thing that I've seen a lot with this kind of stuff is to add more toolkits or more different focuses, like not only development, but even marketing and other angles. So you become more of a full stack with more features, like more skill sets. That's another way of scaling it. In Europe, we have a lot of venture builders where they offer the whole set from a marketing person to a developer to a salesperson. But that's probably outside of the focus, but that's another way to diversify and scale. But yeah, in your case, I would look at the Netherlands and Sweden and see if you get some traction there. And ideally, obviously, get some case studies from existing clients. The bank is a really good one to use as an example, because I think if somebody applies from Ghana to a job application for software developer in the Netherlands, I don't want to be mean, but they're going to be like, what is this? Why are we having an application from Ghana? That's very random. So kind of already preempting that you already have European customers and that they are happy with your services and what you do. That's going to, I think, make it much easier to open the door, because otherwise it's going to be trickier, for sure.
Very well.
There's no doubt about that.
Thank you.
Perfect. John, you had your hand up for a while there. Kakandelva. I'm sure you're still there. Yeah, something is moving. John, you still have a question, or should I move to Kelvin?
Yes. Hello?
Yeah?
Okay, so only selling product is international. What are the procedures? For example, my product is called it's Mufao roast rice. It's an instant rice cereal. It's a ready-to-eat product that is already prepared. And here we are discussing about entering international markets. On food aspect, what things do we need to put in place for people who are selling food, like those who want to export food? Like, for example, I want to export my roast rice to Spain. What legal implications do I need to put in mind?
Well, I'm not a food expert, so I think I'm the wrong person to answer the legal implications, but food is definitely the most complicated export. Of I think most of them, if it's not something very specific. So with food, I mean, what I would do is I would look around your network and see if you know anybody that deals with food exports already. Like I have friends in Kenya that export similar things, not rice, but similar products. And there's a lot of companies that do the exportation already. So I wouldn't with food, I would not do the export yourself, honestly. Initially, I would probably try to learn how it works, work with an exporter. If they see if your product actually is interesting. Because an instant rice is probably a difficult product to export because there's already a lot of that in Europe. And you're gonna compete with Nestle and all of the alike. So I would probably see if you can find something that is a bit more unique that you can export from Ghana. I mean, I know there's a lot of in Kenya, there's a lot of cashew exports, but that's always expensive to grow. But I would probably not spend too much time on trying to export rice with a low margin to a European country because you're not going to find a lot of customer demand. That's my personal opinion. I mean, you can obviously talk to an exporter and then probably just get some input from them, what they're selling, if they're selling rice at all from Ghana, or I don't know if you're in Ghana actually, but from your country. And so yeah, I would do that first before I would even, and I cannot answer the legal question. So I would do a little bit of talking with people that do this already and see if that's even something that makes sense for you. And if not, I would, if you can change what you're selling, I would do that. And otherwise, probably exporting to another African country is a lower hanging fruit. Can also be, if you have a lot of product and you want to sell it, maybe there's, I mean, South Africa, for example, has definitely higher margins than some other countries, probably Kenya as well. But yeah, I leave it there because I have never worked with food myself, so it's a very tricky exporting product. That's why there's a lot of middlemen that take a lot of cuts. Unfortunately, because it's difficult. Kelvin, you had your hand up there as well.
Yeah, for my question, I need you to spell out some good secrets. So we have a project that actually lists experiences and services from hotels and Airbnbs on a digital platform, which can be accessed by their guests and then also can be accessed by the public and even businesses. Okay, so if you want to scale to a place like Spain, what channel do you think we are to go through to be able to get the customers in terms of marketing? What channel do you think are best for us to look out for?
And what's your customer in the end? Like, who's the customer? Is it the Airbnb host, or is it who's your customer?
So with our customer base, we are looking at guests from hotels, okay, and Airbnbs, and then we are also looking at tourists. We are also looking at businesses and corporations who like to make conference meetings and then retreats. We're also looking at the public who would want to make on-demand services, and by not necessarily being a guest, but would like to have to experience maybe some services from the hotels. These are the customer segments we have, and even event planners themselves.
Yeah, so I think the first thing I would do is to actually define your customer because you have a lot of customers. And you want to probably pick one or two. And not try to cater to everybody, especially not in the beginning. But that's more of a general idea. And
actually,
then
our main clients are the hotels and Airbnb.
Okay, so the hotels.
Yeah, so it's a way to provide them with additional revenue streams aside reservations. Yeah.
So it's basically like if a hotel has a spa, they can sell their spa to
Yeah.
non-hotel guests, or if an Airbnb has a, well, I'm not
Yes,
sure what an
yes.
Airbnb would sell, but yeah, so basically more than just the rooms. Um, well, I mean, you can do things that are a little bit gray zone, like you can just message Airbnb host on Airbnb. And what I did in my first company, we were very similar to American company that did basically, yeah, a similar thing, and they had a forum. So I just created a, that was over 10 years ago, I created a bot that was messaging the forum of that company that was focused on the Swedish market. So they had like a Sweden forum. And I was just sending them a link to us and just explaining in 2-3 sentences what we do. And I think that they might find this interesting, check us out. Until they told us that we should stop. So that's like the Facebook way or the Spotify way, where Spotify popped up in your Facebook feed when you were listening to Spotify, and people just found out about it. So that's one way. Just message your users on Airbnb. They're all there, easily available. You just need to send them a message. With hotels, I will probably just find a database of hotels. Like I'm sure you can just scan booking.com, get a list of all the hotels in a certain city, and probably even have the email address. So what I do with my current company is I found a list from the South African government with all the solar energy companies in South Africa. And I used an AI bot to just extract all the names, all the URLs and email addresses. And I am still trying to automate that part now, but I'm basically going through the list and find a person, find an email address, and an email, next one. And I do that like for an hour or so, and I get maybe 50 outreaches done or something like that. So I'm sure you can do something similar with hotels. So that would be the more hacky versions of how I would go about this. Then you can also obviously find associations. I'm sure there's some hotel association in Spain. I do that with solar in South Africa. There's like 2 or 3 industry associations that we are member of, and then I get the member database and I just send an email to all the members. So that's another way of doing it. And then around Airbnb, there's obviously other services as well, but that would be more of a hassle. Like for example, there is people that offer you cleaning services for your Airbnb, so maybe they can be a sales partner, or people that actually even do the hosting for you for your Airbnb, like managing everything. There's a bunch of these companies in Spain as well. There's a lot of Airbnbs that are not really private anymore; they're more professional. So I would probably talk to these and see if they find value, because they could probably on-site your services and they take a cut for doing that. That would probably be a quite interesting way. Maybe not sure if it's going to be that successful, but I would definitely try it. And I mean, with that, you already have a bunch of things to do. And then you see where you find the traction and your first customers, and then you can incentivize your customers to spread the word about your platform by, again, giving them a referral or stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I would just try to find and your customers and send them email or message on Airbnb.
Okay, thank you. That was it.
And it's just one question, Kevin, why are you targeting Spain?
I feel the hospitality industry is growing there. Airbnbs are growing in Spain. Hotels are also growing in Spain. Now, I don't know if Expedia is actually from Spain. I don't know, but I think they are really doing a good job bringing in more hotels and then listing in more hotels. And definitely these hotels would like to also sell out their services to make revenues from their services aside bookings and reservations. So we believe this is an opportunity to us to give them the opportunity to make revenue streams from their services aside reservation.
Yeah, in your case, I would actually even think about if a country focus makes a lot of sense for you, or if you just want to focus on the most touristy cities in Europe. Because the tourism industry is usually good in English. They need to deal with tourists. So you can, that's what I'm saying. There's no blank statement for this. It really depends on the industry that you're in. So in your case, I would say, hey, most of your customers are fine talking English. Otherwise, it's going to be tricky for them to have tourists. And instead of just focusing on Spain as a country, I would say which cities are interesting for tourists in Europe. So that would be obviously Barcelona and Madrid, probably Bilbao. But then I would, instead of Bilbao, I would go to Paris, Rome, Berlin, and then all the capitals, really, Vienna, where there is a lot more tourists, a lot more Airbnbs, a lot more hotels. Because the hotels in the middle of, I don't know, let's say the south of Spain, I mean, there might be some touristy cities as well. But at some point, your services are probably going to be less relevant for the people there, I would say. That's just my opinion. So I would really just pick 10 cities. And a lot of them will be in Spain because, yeah, you're right, Spain is a tourist destination, but not all of them, I'm pretty sure. And then I would target those cities. And usually in that case, you could even A/B test, which means that you, I don't know, maybe pick 100 or 50 or whatever in each city and see which city actually has traction for you. So if Paris, like if you get 50% replies in Paris and people want to try your product, and let's say in Rome nobody wants to use your product, well then you know something you didn't know before, and then you know, okay, let's focus more on Paris or Barcelona, for example. Airbnbs in Barcelona would probably not be a very interesting zone because they're cracking down on that as well. So understanding a little bit of your market might help as well with that. So they have been talking about it for ages in Barcelona, but I will do a little bit of research, put a list down of 10 cities, and then just test them and pick the top 3 out of your test, and then go deeper on those top 3, and that's probably going to be a good set of cities. So I will focus on cities and then scale from one city to the next. Hope that helps, Calvin. Aqua.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean that's
Aqua. Perfect. Happy to help. I mean, again, this is just me making shit up. You have to probably figure this out yourself in the end, but that's what I would do. Aqua, you have your hand up, or you're muted.
Yes, please. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. My name is Rosemond from Ghana. In my company, we are producers of shea butter, cocoa butter, and then all the cocoa products like the cocoa powder, and then the liquor. So our market target is the cosmetologists and then those producers of confectionaries like toffees, chocolates, and then body creams and hair pomade. So I'm asking if you can help or direct to where we can get market or customers in your side, in the Europe or anywhere apart from Ghana.
And you are B2B, I guess.
Sorry?
You are focusing on businesses, like you're selling to businesses, right?
Yes, please. We are selling to companies. Yeah. So our market target is the companies that produces hair pomades, body creams, and then toffees, chocolates. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I don't know the markets that well, so I what I would assume is that a lot of these markets are a lot more sophisticated than in Ghana, because, like, for example, chocolates, a lot of it is highly industrialized by now. So those industries that are super industrialized, you're gonna have very hard time getting in as a relatively small business as a supplier. Versus, I'm assuming, like, if there's a chocolate producer in Ghana, I think I know one actually, that they're much smaller and much more informal. I would say, like, getting into Lind is going to be practically impossible. So what can you do? Looking for more smaller businesses first. That's definitely the first step.
Okay.
I would probably not go into the food industry because that's way too regulated in Europe. But you're gonna have need certificates and stuff to be relevant. I would assume. I have never worked in the food industry, so that's not really relevant. And then I would probably focus on the cosmetics and see if there's companies that are already either maybe Africa owned, like an African owner, or they have already an angle with Africa, because I think you're going to have a much easier conversation with that customer than with some random German soap producer. Or maybe if you can spin a sustainability angle with your products, because there may be smallholder farmers in Ghana that produce them, then you can look at sustainable brands in Europe that might wanna, like, that see value in that and might be able to then use your story in their own marketing.
All right.
But yeah, and maybe this is all very difficult, but I would probably also look at the African diaspora, the Ghanaian diaspora in Europe, and maybe there is some places where you can talk to them, where there's maybe a bit of a stronger presence, and they can also direct you to some local people that might have some contacts. Because yeah, it's gonna be, I mean, with a product like that, it's gonna be pretty tricky, I think, to go directly to a European customer, not for a middleman, like an exporter. But I would try those things and see what happens.
All right. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I think we're hitting already the half an hour mark, but what I would like summarize is it's really depends a lot on your focus, what kind of product you have. You see, like, food products are really difficult. I'd say products that are like personal, like basically soaps and stuff like that, also way more difficult than if you have a digital product. That's the easiest to scale internationally, because you don't need a middleman, you don't have a supply chain issues. And I guess like stuff like business cards is somewhere in between, because you could produce those things kind of locally at some point, and then locally, because they're not something that you have to do on the phone. So there's a wide scale of different products. There's obviously also the focus, like one is looking at countries, but we also have seen from Calvin's example that sometimes the country thinking doesn't make sense, because maybe you should think more in cities or where industry is more prevalent. That could also be that some countries have as an area where an industry is much more prevalent, and you want to focus on that instead of just this broad approach to the whole country. Having Airbnb scale city by city, for example, instead of country per country. So that's also something to consider, like how is your customer base built up? And if you have a local representative, like some people have, like a brother in Spain, I mean, that's also going to make things obviously a lot easier. So that's something to consider as well. Usually, I would say that it's better to focus on one thing at a time, so one country at a time, or maximum 2-3 cities at some point, and go deeper on that. But again, like, this is just it depends on the case by case. That's why I wanted to hear questions, because I can talk an hour about internationalization. It's not going to be relevant for anybody. So I think those examples are really interesting, and because also they came from different angles, and also different channels for internationalization, like the software as a service. You're gonna go through LinkedIn and job like applications offers. So everybody has their own channel, and some of them are easier than others. But I don't know, Daniel, how we wrap it up here.
Yeah, I think for today is more than enough.
Sorry?
You've done it very well.
Perfect. I hope that some of you got something useful out of this. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn if you want. I'm happy to answer more questions if you have something for via LinkedIn.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, guys.
Andrea.
Cheers.
Cheers, have a good one.
Okay, so